Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So today we're going to be working with dot plots. Dot plots is just another way to organize our data. I think you'll find that these ones are a little bit easier and a lot less taxing than some of the other ones that we've done so far. So let's go ahead and start by first reviewing the mean, median, mode, and range. Do you remember what the definition of mean is? Mean is simply just the average of a data set. The way you figure out the mean or the average is you add up all the numbers and divide by the total number you're given. We worked with the median yesterday. The median is just the middle number. Some of you discovered yesterday that if you don't put the numbers in order from least to greatest, you're not able to figure out the correct median. So remember that you want to always first order numbers from least to greatest. The next term that we're going to talk about is what's called the mode. The mode is the number that occurs the most. The thing to remember with mode is you could have one mode, or you can have multiple modes, or you could have no mode if each number occurs the same number of times. The final area that we want to review is the range, and that's simply the big minus the smallest. The biggest number minus the smallest. When you put your numbers in order from smallest to biggest, you'll easily be able to tell what those numbers are. So let's pause the video for a moment while you go and calculate out the mean, median, and mode for each data set. What I just listed for you is the mean, median, and mode for letter A. Check your answers with what I got. Notice with number 2 or letter B, you actually have two modes. How did you do with figuring out all of your mean, median, mode, and ranges? Hopefully you did a great job. If not, you can definitely go back and keep practicing it. Luckily for today, we're not going to have to understand all of those right away. So let's go ahead and get started with example number 1. Example number 1 is referring to the hours of sleep that Robert, a 9th grader at Hampshire High School, usually gets. So if we look at all of these different numbers, it's a lot of little numbers to look at. So the easiest way to figure out how to organize the survey data that Robert got was to create a box plot or a dot plot. Sorry about that. So what we're going to do, and it's probably easiest if you go through and do it on your own, is we're going to put a dot, or I like to do an X because it's easier to see, but you can do a dot or an X every single time that number occurs in the column. So for example, my first number is a 7, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little X in the 7 column. My next number is an 8, so I'm going to find the 8 and put a little X. I'm going to go through this as I move through my numbers. So go ahead and do the same, and then we'll come back together and make sure we each got the same number. Okay, so double check that you have the same number of dots or X's that I have. I have 1 for number 5. I have 1 for number 6, 3 on 7, 8 on 8, 9 on 9, 4 on 10, 2 on 11, and 12 on X. That's all there is to making a dot plot. But we have to be able to use our dot plot to answer some questions. Notice letter A is telling us to go through and make the dot plot, so there's nothing to write for that one. Looking at letter B, would we call this data skewed left, skewed right, or symmetrical? Overall, it does create a nice even rainbow look. So this is what we would call symmetrical. And then letter C is asking us how many students slept 7 hours at night. So if we look in the column that has a 7, you see 3 X's. So that would be 3 students. And yes, make sure you're going back and labeling your answers. Letter D is asking us if students received 3 purple pay for getting 10 or more hours of sleep, how much purple pay was given out? So we need to look in the columns that contain 10 or more. That is these 3 columns. So if we look here, 10 has 4, 11 has 2, 12 has 1. If we add that up, there were 7 students who slept 10 or more hours. So if each student got 3 purple pay, we're just going to take 7 times the 3 purple pay, and we find out that 21 purple pays were given out. That didn't seem so bad, did it? Let's go ahead and turn to the next page. Example number 2 is talking about playing a sport or an outdoor game. So this dot plot is the number of hours on average 9th graders spend playing an outdoor game or just being outside during the day. Before we get any further, I want to make sure you guys correct the bottom here. Instead of saying number of hours, this actually should say the number of games. So we're going to go through and put our X's or dots just like we did on the previous problem. So you go ahead and do yours as I go ahead and do mine. One thing that I do after I go through and do all my X's is I count up all of my data points listed, and then I count up all my X's or dots just to ensure I got all of my numbers. Looking here, I think I did a pretty good job. Now that I have my data arranged on my dot plot, I can use that to answer my questions. So the first thing says, complete the student's dot plot of the number of games played outdoors. Well, I just did that one, so that's already taken care of. Letter B is saying how many students played more than 7 games. So the numbers that are more than 7 are 8 through 12. So how many X's or dots do you have on the numbers 8 through 12? We have 2 students. Letter C is saying, what is the mode of the data? So if we look here, remember mode is the one that occurs the most. So which one had the most X's? 3. And what does it represent? Well, students played outside 3 hours. That doesn't seem like very much time. Maybe they had a winter that went on forever like we did. Letter D is asking us if the data is skewed left, skewed right, or symmetrical. This one's a great one because you can really see what's going on here. So we start coming up and then we go down. It's very easy to see that your tail is on the right-hand side. So we're going to call that skewed right. And then finally, letter E is saying if Sports R Us decided to give away 3 free rounds of golf to everyone that played at most 4 hours outside, how many free rounds of golf were given out? So if we go back to our table here, we said at most. So that means we're looking at 4 or less. So let's total up how many we have in each column. So under the 4 column, there were 3 X's. Under the 3 column, we had 7. The 2 had 5. The 1 had 4. And the 0 had 3. So if we add up all of those numbers, we find that there were how many? Go ahead and add them up now. Good job. 23 is the total number of students that played outside for at most 4 hours. So if they gave out 3 free rounds of golf for all those students, 23 times 3 ends up being 69 rounds of golf were given out. Is this making sense to you? I'll go through one more example to help you out in case you're still a little confused. Who are my baseball fans? This one's for you. Example 3 is talking about the total number of games played in various World Series. We're going to go ahead and complete the dot plot like we did before, so you do yours as I do mine. And then once you get all your dots or X's in place, make sure you got all your data points on there. How did you do? Fantastic job. Okay, let's use those data points to answer our questions. Letter B is saying, is this skewed right, skewed left, or symmetrical? So if we look here, it's kind of going up like this. So we would call that one skewed, you guessed it, skewed left. Letter C is saying Taco Bell is giving out 1 million free Doritos Tacos Locos if a team sweeps the World Series. So in case you're not really big baseball fans here, a sweep means that there are exactly 4 games played. So that means one team won 4 games in a row. So based on the data that I have given you, how many free Doritos Tacos Locos have been given out? So the first thing we have to do is figure out how many sweeps there were. So we're looking in the 4 column and we have 3. Now, if 1 million Doritos Tacos Locos were given out during each of those games, we simply multiply those 2 together and we find out that 3 million Doritos Tacos Locos, we're going to call that, or Doritos Locos Tacos, I guess I'm saying it wrong, the DLT, I'm going to abbreviate it, that's how many were given out. I've never had those, but I hear that they're kind of popular. And then finally, letter D is saying how many World Series had at most 5 games played. So that means 5 or less. So if we add up both of those columns, we find out that there were 6 World Series that had at most 5 games played. So that's all there is to today's notes. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you fully understand how to do it. If not, feel free to go back and rewatch the video. Please show your notes to the sub so that way you can get a copy of the classwork. If you were absent yesterday, it would be a good idea to work on the notes that the sub has given you from yesterday's information. You may ask a neighbor or friend to quietly explain to you how to do box and whisker plots. Thanks for working hard today. I'll see you all on Monday. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.